Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And today we're going to be talking about the exclusion of Evan Roos from the Springbok squad and how the Stormers in the playoffs will give him an opportunity to really put his hand up. But having said that, the man who's basically been included ahead of him has an even bigger opportunity this weekend in the Champions Cup final. We're going to be talking about Evan Roos versus Juarno Augustus and why one has potentially been left out of the Bok alignment camp, whilst the other has been included. And having a little look at the two, because I do think that there is kind of a bit of a, if Juarno Augustus drops out, Evan Roos would be included with regards to sort of the pecking order when it comes to our number 8s. And it's not a lot between the two. But we'll basically just be chatting about what the thinking might be from Rassie Erasmus and his coaching staff, as well as what these kind of players have got ahead of them in the next few weeks to really sort of put their hands up and to show exactly what they're all about. Before we do that, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We are gearing up for the EPCR finals this weekend. The Challenge Cup final on Friday evening before the Champions Cup final takes center stage at about 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Let's get into this debate, though, shall we? And that is Evan Roos versus Juarno Augustus. So, Evan Roos is a player who, if we go back 2-3 seasons ago, was the URC player of the season. Everything he touched turned to goal, and it looked like he was going to be a nailed-on starter for the Boks, in due time. And it was basically a case of when, not if, he would be sort of our front-running number 8, especially with Duane Vermeulen sort of coming to the end of his career at the time. Jasper Wiese was sort of coming through, but maybe hadn't sort of replicated their performances. Let's fast forward about 2-3 years now. Evan was not even part of the alignment camp that is meeting up this week. And the question is, where did it go wrong? And I don't think it's a case of it went wrong, but rather it didn't go right enough. Evan Roos has had quite a few games for the Boks, and he's had some good moments, but he has not been able to really be as effective as he has been at the Stormers at times that he has been in green and gold. And he's quite a uncharacteristic type number 8 for the Boks in that he almost sort of suits more to the number 6 role. He's very mobile around the park, likes to carry in the fringes, likes to sort of be out in the wing, and is really good in loose play. Isn't necessarily your sort of hardest working, sort of dirty work type of number 8, which is what traditionally the Boks have had under Rassie Erasmus. You think of Duane Vermeulen, and he was your all-round number 8, good under the high ball, good in the trenches, good turnover threat as well, good line-out jumper. You've then got a Kwagga Smith, for example, who's been played a few times at number 8, more sort of as a bench role, but again, fantastic over the ball, and ironically, actually, it was quite good in the fringe in terms of finding different ways of getting over the advantage line. Jasper Wiese, very different to Kwagga Smith in terms of being a bit of a battering ram, but very physical and puts in a big shift around the park. Evan Roos is, I think, almost sometimes what some people are starting to call a bit of a luxury player, in that he is a bit more expansive. He is a bit more sort of new age, I suppose, to a certain degree. He's got a really good skill set, exceptional pace. But maybe not really always the grunt that sometimes maybe you want from a Jasper Wiese. And that's where I think maybe Juarno Augustus might have a bit of an edge. So if we look at Evan Roos' stats, had a really good season once again. He's played, this is all against 14 out of the 36 games across the last of the season. He scored 6 tries. And the main thing to really look over there is 160 carries. And he's averaging a carry, more than one carry every 6 minutes. I mean, that's a really good work rate. Tackles, a tackle sort of 8.47 minutes, 8.5 minutes. If we then look at over there, meters gained 636, it's a lot. Defenders beaten also a lot. Passes 45, 2 try assists, 6 clean breaks, 14 missed tackles though, in 113. Not bad, nothing bad there. I mean, it's missing one every sort of 10, I suppose. 4 turnovers, 1. Not a massive breakdown. 30, if you're going to be perfectly honest. 16 turnovers conceded over there. Then we're going to talk about Juarno Augustus. Now, I personally think that this call-up or this inclusion is well overdue. He's been tremendous. And Northampton, being in the Champions Cup this weekend, in the final, gives him the perfect opportunity to sort of say to Rassie Erasmus on the greatest stage, I'm ready. Get me involved. And I do think his move to Ulster next year, for example, next season, will only elevate his chance playing for the Boks because he'll put him in directly in front of South African audiences. I mean, there'll be 4 games at least against South African franchises, for example, next season, excluding sort of your EPCR potential games there as well. And we watch more, South Africans, we probably watch more URC than we probably do Premiership Rugby, for example. So if we look at his stats, for example, quite similar in many ways to Evan Roos. A similar amount of carries. Has got 1 try more, has played a couple more games. Similarly, almost identical minutes per carry. He does average more tries sort of per minute. He's got a better strike rate, but marginal. But for me, a very important stat there is the minutes per tackles. And he's getting a tackle every 6 minutes versus every 8.5. Which, add up over a game is 2, 3, 4 more tackles than, for example, Evan Roos gets to, probably actually more. And I think that, that side of his game is what's really, really standing out. Again, defenders beating not as many as Evan Roos, for example. Similar amount of clean of meters gained. More turnovers won, few turnovers conceded, and fewer tackles missed despite making far more tackles. Good 30, 40 tackles made. The point is, this is a man for the trenches. This is a man who does really well in sort of close quarters. And I think in international rugby, what you see is, for example, the reason we don't see the Evan Roos we do see the Stormers is because things are tighter. The margins are so much smaller, and you've got to be able to operate within those margins. And I think that's kind of the big challenge at the moment for Evan Roos, is being able to find the impact he has on the international stage, where there are fewer. It almost feels like a field is a bit smaller, because offenses are better. They're well more organized. Defenders are a lot better, individually. And I think that in many ways is probably why Juarno Augustus is being looked at, because there's someone who's a lot better, I believe, in sort of the close quarters, the nitty gritty type of a hard graft number 8. And he's also an absolute behemoth of a man. I mean, look, they're both big, but Juarno Augustus is big. And I think that sort of bruiser, you got that sort of physicality. To be very physical at local level. We've seen players do that. I mean, Ruan Fenter, for example, runs over a player every game at URC level. The best players managed to impose themselves in Test match rugby, and I don't think Evan Roos has quite managed to do that just yet. We don't even know if Juarno Augustus is going to do that, but I do think he deserves the chance to do it. And I think that had he not gone overseas, I think he probably would have gotten the box charts. Ironically, him going overseas probably paved the way for Evan Roos to become a Springbok before him, because he left the Stormers, which meant that they needed to look for a number 8, and they went with somebody young and blonde in the form of Evan Roos, who returned from the Sharks, and the rest is kind of history. But I think it's a very interesting matchup, because yes, some of their stats look very similar, but two very different types of players, two very good players, and I think two players that could be world class. But I think that Juarno Augustus probably suits more the mold of a Dwayne Vermeulen type of Jasper Wiese, probably a bit of a comparison type of player, versus an Evan Roos, who's I think will be interesting to see if he starts to play a bit more at 6, even for the box, for example. We talked about Cameron Hanekom as well, similar type of player. Also maybe sort of operating number 6 jersey, where you got a bit more license to get away from someone sort of the number 8 roles. So very, very interesting. And I want to know what you guys think. Which one would you go to? Is Juarno Augustus lucky to be called up? Should Evan Roos have been called up ahead of him? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.